Hi everyone, hope all of you are doing well. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a frequency distribution table for quantitative data. Also, I'm going to show you how to make a relative frequency distribution, cumulative frequency distribution, and cumulative relative frequency distribution table for this quantitative data. Also, I'm going to make a histogram for relative frequency. So first I need to select my data. I'm going to use a pivot table to make the distribution tables. So first I need to select the data, Shift, Control down, and then insert pivot table. I want to have the pivot table in a new worksheet so I don't change anything here. Just I'm going to click OK. Now my data is here. I drag the data down under the rows. One more time, I drag my data under the values. I'm going to make a frequency distribution table, so I need to count numbers. So here it shows sum. I need to change sum to count. How? In the pivot table field, just click on sum, value field setting, and then select count. Now we have the frequency of the numbers of data. Because my data is quantitative data, because in data I have numbers, so I'm gonna group them into some classes. How? Right click here and then group. The smallest number in my data is 12. The maximum number is 23. I want to have classes of size 3, for example. I want to have the class width of 3. So I'm gonna change by to 3. Now I have classes of size 3. So then OK. Now I have 4 classes of size 3. Total number of items in my data is 25. 3 of them are between 12 to 14. 6 of them are between 15 and 17. 8 numbers are between 18 and 20. And another 8 numbers are between 21 and 23. The smallest number is 12. The maximum number is 23. It's a frequency distribution table. Now question asks me, make a relative frequency distribution also. To make a relative frequency distribution, I need to add one more column to this table. Let me change the row labels to classes. Now, to make a relative frequency distribution, I need to add one more column to this table. I click in the table, then I can see pivot table fields on the right side. I need to drag the data one more time under the values. Now I have added one more column to this table. Now I'm going to make relative frequency. How? Just click in the data and then right click, show value as percent of grand total. Look at here, they are relative frequencies. 12% of data are between 12 to 14. Simply, you need to divide 3 by 25. You get 0.12. Then multiply by 100, you get 12%. But we didn't do any calculation. Everything is done by pivot table. So 12% of data are between 12 and 14. 24% of data are between 15 and 17. 32% of data belongs to this class, and the last 32% of data falls within this interval 21 to 23. If you want to have decimal numbers here instead of percent number, just select the column, and here instead of general, select number. Now I have relative frequency. Look at here, when you add relative frequencies, you get 1. Now look at part C. In part C, question says make a cumulative frequency distribution. To make a cumulative frequency distribution, I back to the pivot table, So I need to add one more column for cumulative relative frequency. Question says make a cumulative frequency, not relative, cumulative frequency. So I need to add one more column for cumulative frequency. I drag one more time the data under the values. Look at here. Look at it, it's the new column I added. Okay, so you can move that up or you can change the place. If you want to move that to the end, just click on here and then move to the end. Look at here now, I have the new column at the end. I'm gonna make cumulative frequency. To make a cumulative frequency distribution, just click in the table, right click, show value as running total in, and then OK. Look at here. What does it mean? Look at here. Cumulative frequency says 3 numbers are less than or equal to 14. But what about this 9? 9 is the addition between 3 and 6. 3 plus 6 is 9. So 9 numbers are less than 17, less than or equal to 17. 17 number out of 25, because in total we have 25 numbers. 17 number out of 25 number in this data are less than or equal to 20. They are more than or equal to 12, but less than or equal to 20. And all the data are less than 23, less than or equal to 23. So here I made a cumulative frequency. Now look at part D. I need to make a cumulative relative frequency. To make a cumulative relative frequency, you can add one more column to data, or just we can change this column to cumulative relative frequency. Let me change this one to cumulative relative frequency. How? Just I'm gonna click here, show value as, then percent running total in, then OK. Now look at here. Now instead of cumulative frequency, I have cumulative relative frequency. 12% of data are less than or equal to 14. 36%. 36% is the addition between 0.12 and 0.24. 0.12 plus 0.24 is 0.36 or 36%. 36% of data are less than 17, less than or equal to 17. Look at the upper limit of the second class is 17. 36% of data are less than or equal to 17. 68% of data are less than or equal to 20. 20 is the upper limit of the third class. All of the data, 100% of data are less than or equal to 23, because 23 is the maximum number in data. Now let's back to the question. Question asked me, build a histogram for relative frequency. To make a histogram for relative frequency, just in this table, I need to delete frequency and cumulative relative frequency to have just relative frequency. Then I'm going to make a histogram. Look at here, I don't need now frequency and cumulative relative frequency. So here under the values, just I need to keep the relative frequency. So I don't need the frequency. Just click on that and the remove field. And also I don't need the cumulative one. Just click on that and then remove field. Look at here, now I have just relative frequency distribution table. And I'm going to make a histogram for that. Just I'm going to select the data, insert. So just select the bar chart. Then convert the bar chart to a histogram. How? To convert the bar chart to histogram, click on design on the top and then quick layout and select number 8. So it's the histogram. We can rename that to histogram. And here I have the classes. and this axis is relative frequency. Instead of frequency, we work with relative frequency for the data.